Hello from MakeUseOf. My name's Tim Brooks, and I'm currently looking at one of the latest additions to Apple's now-defunct range of MP3 players, the 6th generation iPod Touch. The unit I've got here is a 64GB model in gold, which retails for $299 and comes with only a pair of cheap earpods and a lightning cable for charging and data transfer. You can also find the iPod Touch in 16, 32 and 128GB configurations in pink, blue, grey, silver and red. Under the hood is the same A8 chip and 1GB of RAM found in the iPhone 6. The device sports a new 8MP iSight camera and the same widescreen display found in the iPhone 5S. The new iPod Touch also comes with Bluetooth 4.1, the first iOS device to do so. The iPod Touch was given a refresh along two other existing iPod lines, the Nano and the Shuffle, arguably two very different devices. The iPod Touch is the only device in the range to run iOS, the software that powers Apple's iPhone and iPad range, and it's also the only iPod device compatible with the new Apple Music streaming platform. You can also install apps from Spotify, radio, or other competing streaming services if that's what you prefer. Make no mistake, this is the thinnest, lightest, and probably nicest feeling iOS device ever created. It's like someone took the iPhone 5S, put it on a diet, and then sanded down the back till it was perfectly smooth. If you thought the iPhone 5S was the perfect size device, this is essentially what the iPhone 6 could have been had Apple stuck with a smaller form factor. A lightweight aluminium chassis keeps weight down to 88 grams, though this comes at a cost. The aluminium used in such devices doesn't bruise well and it's quite prone to dents and scratches. Despite this, it feels wonderful in the hand, at times perhaps too thin, like it's going to snap in half when you sneeze. In terms of physical changes, there's only one to speak of since the last revision. Apple has removed the loop attachment on the back of the device. Coming from an iPhone, the differences are much less subtle. This is very much a media-focused device that omits the cellular radio and GPS abilities of its more expensive smartphone cousin. It's not intended for use as a phone, and as such, it does a very poor job of replicating one. The iPod Touch can't make non-Facetime calls, nor can Apple Maps locate you without a Wi-Fi connection. There's no Fingerprint Scanner for Touch ID, no Apple Pay, and the device is still iPhone 5 sized, which at this stage feels a bit small. That said, battery life is up, but it's mostly down to the way the device is used rather than massive gains in the hardware department. As the device isn't constantly checking the cellular network, receiving push notifications, and querying for location fix, the battery can quite literally last all week, with only a few hours of use each day. Apple rates it for 40 hours music playback, or 8 hours of video, and while real-world results will differ, this is a pretty accurate figure in my experience. Camera performance is on par with the iPhone 5S, capturing excellent quality still images in well-lit conditions, but the True Tone flash found on the back of the iPhone 6 is missing. Video performance is good, with 1080p at 30 frames and 720p slow-motion video at 120 frames, though the iPhone 6 can do much better. The iPod Touch also makes use of the motion tracking abilities of the M8 coprocessor to track your movement, like some sort of very expensive pedometer. Of course, you've got a fully fledged mobile operating system at your disposal, so you have access to a web browser, calculator, or alarm clock whenever you need it. Apple even loads the iPod Touch up with premium apps like Keynote, Numbers, and Pages, though you can of course delete these again to regain space. Despite the iPod Touch being a good device at a seemingly reasonable price point, it's still hard to make it a recommended purchase, purely because most of us have little need for such a device anymore. If you own a modern smartphone, it can pretty much do anything the iPod Touch can already, so who is it for? It might be the perfect device for younger family members, restricting them to internet access over Wi-Fi while still providing access to games and other apps for offline fun. It may also be good if you find yourself traveling a lot and would like a dedicated device you can load up with music and films that won't impact your smartphone or tablet battery life. Maybe you're an Android user who wants to dip your toes into Apple's ecosystem, though you will be missing out on a large part of what makes up the iOS experience on an iPhone. Maybe you're looking for a point-and-shoot camera that does more than take pictures. The iPod Touch is an option, though there's no removable storage or optical zoom. Put simply, the iPod Touch is the greatest device you have no need for. Unless, of course, you can find a need for it, in which case you should probably buy one. To be in with a chance of winning this very iPod Touch and to read our full review, head to MakeUseOf.com.